Hello everyone. In this video, let us know about allowances and in particular what is HRA and how are we supposed to calculate this HRA. Let us check on that. So what do you mean by allowances? So allowance is a fixed monetary amount which is paid by an employer to employee for meeting a particular expenses, whether personal or for performance of his duties. So any amount which is paid by an employer for a specific purpose is known as your allowance. For example, we get children education allowance. So this particular children education allowance is an allowance for educating his kids and for compensating the tuition fees what he is paying for his children. So this allowance is for a specific purpose which has been given. Same way, we have HRA, which is known as house rent allowance. It is a compensation amount which is given by an employer to pay your rent and reduce your burden. So allowance is nothing but the fixed monetary amount which is paid by an employer to employee for meeting some particular expenses, whether it is personal or for his performance of his duty. So there are different types of allowances which an employer gives. So the entire allowances can be classified into three groups: fully taxable allowances. There are certain allowance which is fully taxable, and partly taxable allowances wherein you get an exemption of certain amount, and next is fully exempted allowance. So some of the allowances are fully exempted from tax. Now let us know what is house rent allowance and how are we supposed to calculate this particular house rent allowance. House rent allowance falls under the category of partly taxable allowance. So what do you mean by this particular house rent allowance? So Income Tax Act has defined house rent allowance under section 10 subsection 13A. The sole purpose of this allowance is to meet the cost of your renting a home. So any individual, if he has rented the house, to compensate that particular amount, this HRA will be provided by an employer to employee. So let us check what's a format for calculating this house rent allowance. So whatever amount you have received as your HRA, that is your actual HRA received, in that the least of the following can be deducted. So what is that least of the following? We have three things under that: the HRA amount, what you have received from an employer, or it can be rent paid minus 10% of salary and 40% of salary. In case of metropolitan cities, it will be increased to 50%. So other than metropolitan cities, it will be 40%. So there are 4 metropolitan cities in India, that is Chennai, Mumbai, Kolkata, as well as Delhi. So if an individual is staying in a rented house in this 4 metropolitan city, then 50% of the salary will be taken. Out of all these 3, whichever is the lowest amount will be considered for exemption and remaining balance will be taxable. So when we compute this particular HRA, we have to remember certain things. So salary for the purpose of HRA calculation includes basic pay, dearness allowance, which is forming a part of salary, percentage of commission on sales turnover. We may have received enormous amount from an employer, but for the purpose of HRA calculation, salary includes only basic pay, dearness allowance, which is part of salary, as well as commission, which is there on your sales turnover. So next thing you have to be keen on HRA is if an individual stay in his own house or in a house wherein he doesn't pay any rent, that time the entire amount of HRA what he has received will be taxable. The entire amount what is received as HRA amount will be fully taxable. So kindly remember that an individual receiving an HRA and stays in a own house or in a house wherein he's not paying any rent, that time he is supposed to tax the full amount of HRA. So whatever is received by him as HRA amount will be fully taxable. So next thing is entertainment allowance. So this allowance will be given only for government employees. So any government employees who is receiving an entertainment allowance, then the particular way of calculation will be implemented. That is your actual entertainment allowance, what you have received, and least of the following get exempted. The government specified amount is 5,000 or 20% of basic salary or actual actual entertainment allowance amount what you have received. So whichever is lowest will be exempted from tax, and remaining balance of entertainment allowance is taxable. It is applicable only for government employees. Non-government employees, if at all they receive entertainment allowance, it is fully taxable allowance. So kindly note, if non-government employee receives an entertainment allowance, it will be fully taxable. So let us take a small example for HRA calculation and check what's a taxable amount of HRA from Mrs. Sheila. So Mrs. Sheila resides in Kolkata, Bangalore. We will just check if she is residing in Kolkata, what is the impact? And if she is there in Bangalore, what is the impact? During the previous year, 2021, and she gets 12,000 per annum as a basic salary and 20% of basic pay as dearness allowance, enters the retirement benefit. She also receives commissions of rupees 15,000, which is calculated 2% on her turnover, whatever she has achieved during the year. HRA received by her is 11,800 per annum, but rent paid is 14,800. So calculate your HRA amount is asked for the assessment year 21-22. Now, if at all she resides in Kolkata, then the last exemption amount, what we calculate, least of the following, will be 40%. If a same individual resides in Bangalore, then it will be 40%. In metropolitan city, it will be 50%. Now, let us check if she is residing in Kolkata, what's the impact? And if she resides in Bangalore, what is the impact? So the amount which she has received as HRA amount, all of us know it is 11,800 rupees. What is she receiving? Then we need to check which is the least amount which get exempted. So whether it is 11,800 or rent paid minus 10% of salary. The amount of rent paid by her is 14,800. So salary includes basic pay, dearness allowance, as well as commission, which will come up to 29,400. Rent paid was 14,800 minus 10% of 29,400, which will be 2,940. When you deduct that, it will be 11,860 rupees. So next, since she is staying in Kolkata, 50% of salary we have already calculated, it is 29,400. So 50% of that 29,400 comes up to 14,700. When I check least of the following, the amount received as HRA is 11,800 and rent paid minus 10% of salary is 11,860. 50% of salary is 14,700. So the lowest amount and out of all these three is 11,800. That is actual HRA received by her. So she need not pay any amount as tax. But in case if the same individual is staying in Bangalore she resides, that time we have to calculate the same way. Only difference is in the last calculation. That is, as per the city she is residing, she is eligible and entitled for 40% of salary as an exemption amount. So 40% of it will come up to 11,760. In other two cases, it's the same way what we take for other cities. We consider here even for Bangalore. So the amount of HRA she has received is 11,800. Rent paid minus 10% of salary, which is 11,860. And when it comes for your metropolitan city, it was 50%. But now, as we are calculating for Bangalore, 40% of 29,400 will come up to 11,760. So out of all these three, the lowest amount is 11,760 and taxable HRA, which we have to include as a part of salary, will be 40. So this is how we calculate our HRA. and how we should compute our HRA for the purpose of salary calculation. I think you're clear what is HRA and how are we supposed to calculate this particular amount of HRA. Thank you all.